Welcome everybody to the Culture Shock Podcast. Your boy Pat Bayless, and I'm in the building with a brand new guest, CEO of At War, co-host of Journey Podcast, the Journey Podcast. Excuse me, we're gonna have to fix that. The Journey Podcast. My guy John.
Yo,
How are you, bro?
I'm good, bro. Thank you for having me, man. It's always so dope. I say it all the time. I mean, you've never had a conversation. Our first conversation is gonna be on camera. I love that.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
what's amazing is that I always do my homework. Like whenever I bring somebody on or anything like that, but I always watch our pod all the time. So I kind of already know about you, if that makes sense, going into it. You know what I'm saying? So
That's a compliment for sure, because we go on there and just super vulnerable and transparent. So that's probably the place that if someone doesn't know me, that's when you want to learn. Yeah, just turn on the pod. You learn everything you want to know.
One of the first things that I recognized that you said, and it kind of stood out, is that the look of you, right? Like as a person, you were saying, you tall, you got all these tattoos, you made look like this, like a bodyguard pretty much, right? But when you talk to you, you're very just calm. Your demeanor is chill. Even when you're talking to pot, vulnerability. People don't expect that from somebody that quote unquote looks like you. And I've always noticed that you said that. I think it's first of all, I think it's amazing because a lot of men in general don't like to be vulnerable, and if they are, it's a sense of weakness. So where did that vulnerability start? Was it the pod, or did it happen in an early part of your life?
It's a great question. I feel like I've always been like this for some reason. I don't know why. I'm trying to think. Like my father is kind of like that in a way. At least he was with me. I've always been like that, but I think that the pod is what really brought it out. I was always the friend that, like, if somebody had a problem, they would come to for advice. Not that I know everything, but I just have been through a lot of shit. So people would always come to me because I am very open, like, with my people, It's a gift and a curse. It's very bittersweet to talk as transparently as I do about my life because of the other people that are in my life. You know what I'm saying? Whether I talk about my parents, whether I talk about my girl or my ex or whatever. And I feel like, I don't know where that shit started. I've always been like that. Like, I've always been an open book with my people. Maybe even to an extent of, like, I might even overshare early if I feel like we really vibe and connect, But like when that shit started, I've always been like this, bro. I think that's why I flourished in the pods like right away, because I talk about it all the time. When I called DM Zach on TikTok and was like, yo, I love what you guys are doing. I'd love to come on the pod. We never had a conversation. We just sat down and it just happened, And I noticed that I was good at that. Actually, it's funny. I feel like not a lot of people will correlate this, but I was a delivery driver for a pizzeria, Italian restaurant, right? And I remember they asked me, there was a small coffee bar inside this restaurant. It was coffee, wine, and it was 5-seater. It wasn't a big bar, it was 5-seater. And I remember when they asked me if I wanted to do that job, I never done anything like that before in my life, but I wasn't nervous because I knew that I could just sit there and talk to people all day. And I never correlated it like with a pod until I just randomly, I was on pods before that, and I kind of felt it a little bit. And then it just opened the floodgates when I got on the pod. So honestly, bro, I've always been like that, but the pod is the reason why I'm so comfortable now being like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could tell your comfortability, and also, was it a thing? Because like you said, people come to the pizzeria, they would talk to you. Has it always been a thing? Have you realized maybe since a kid that sometimes energies, in my opinion, sometimes energies are there where people are just drawn to you? I always say this about me, like, I could talk to anybody, really relate with anybody, but for some reason, I could be sitting in the middle of wherever, and the person that maybe I don't even want to talk to, they come over and talk to me anyways. You get what I'm saying? So do you have that kind of, I wouldn't say maybe like aura, but where people are kind of just drawn to you no matter what? They just, somehow they find their way to you. It could be in a grocery store, and they just feel the sense of calmness to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also, not even like just an insecurity. I just always felt like no matter where I went, I just always stood out, and that's where like the size and like even the loudness and the accent, and then as I got older, the tattoos. So I just always felt like, even if it wasn't true, that there was a spotlight on me no matter where I went, And for some reason, even though I didn't really want to lean into that, I wound up leaning into that as I got older, because I was like, yo, this is what it is. And it's also worked on the opposite end too, because even as a kid, I used to get into a lot of fights that like I didn't want to get into because it's like they always say, I've never been to prison, but like if you ever hear somebody say, yo, if you ever go to jail, fucking find the biggest guy in the room and just punch him in the face, right? And it was literally, bro, but it was literally like that, like in the clubs and in the bars as I was growing up as a kid. So maybe that's where it started in a negative way, but I just always felt like there was a fucking spotlight on me. When maybe there wasn't, or in that case there was. But yeah, bro, people have always just been able to just like talk to me. Not judgmental. I've done wrong. I've done right. You know what I'm saying? I maybe that's what it is. I'm just not a judgmental person. I've seen a lot of things, and for some reason, people are just always okay with opening up to me.
I think that's the thing though. What you're saying is non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Like people, a lot of people judge right off the rip, and they give you that sense of judgment as you talk to them.
Right away.
So when you feel that with anybody, like even just listening to you talk, it makes people want to open up or feel like they're okay to open up. So I think that's a gift. In my opinion, I believe that's like a part of your gift.
Yeah, thank you.
Before you did all this podcast and stuff, you started a brand.
Yeah.
Talk about maybe your inspiration behind it, and then also, is there people in the clothing industry that inspire you?
Yeah, I mean, I fell into the brand. Like growing up, I always loved clothes. I have an older cousin. Shout out to my cousin Rob. He used to always like give me his hand-me-downs because like in the early 2000s, if you were like a large or XL, you were wearing like the bigger clothes. So it was like a bit, you know what I mean? So he's right now got to be like 36 or 37, and I'm 30. So he was always about 6-7 years older than me, and he used to always give me his hand-me-downs. So I used to get like the NBA jerseys that like fit me like a glove because he was wearing bigger, and I was just always bigger, you know. And I just fell in love with clothing. But like with wearing the clothing, right? Just how it made me feel, because I also have OCD. And this is also when I realized when I was a kid, like my outfits are part of like my obsession compulsion. Like I need to wear something that's going to make me feel comfortable. If I'm uncomfortable in what I'm wearing, then I'm just going to be uncomfortable. Like I go to the gym and like someone might look at me like, why the fuck's you wearing that in the gym? But for me, it just makes me feel comfortable, right? So growing up as a kid, clothes just always gave me comfort. And I never in a million years would ever think that I was going to start a clothing brand. I was going to be a professional fighter, or I was going to be a construction worker. I dropped out of college to be a fighter. I wound up blowing my knee out, the same one that I hurt when I was a kid. And I was working in a restaurant. I was always working in restaurants. I was working in a restaurant, but I was a delivery driver. There was a kid there. He had a logo. He had one hoodie. He was a young kid. And bro, it's just so funny. Like I tell the story all the time because me and that kid don't speak, and he's not part of the brand no more because he wound up quitting. But he was so young. He was like, I was 18, 19 years old, and he was 15 years old, busboy, right? And I remember, bro, just like walking into work one day and be like, yo, let's chop it up after work. I bought a hoodie off him because I thought it was cool, and I just love clothes. And I wound up buying the hoodie off of him, and he was like, we wound up sitting down after our shift. And I just looked at him. I'm like, yo, this shit is dope. I'm like, you got anything else? He's like, nah, it's the first item I ever made. I'm like, all right, cool. He was like, you need any help doing it? Now, mind you, I had nothing going on. I had just dropped out of college. My parents were like, all right, we let you drop out of college to be a fighter, but you're not doing that shit no more. You're working in a hood Mexican spot delivering food all day. And like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, you know? And I just, bro, I didn't wake up that night or the night before. I didn't think about, yo, I'm going to ask this kid if he needs help. Like, it was not in my head. I just remember, bro, it just happened. We were just sitting there. I was like, yo, you need help with it? And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. Fuck it. Let's just go 50-50 on it and see what happens. He was like, all right. And, bro, that was it. Literally, that was it. And for 2 years, we just started doing shit together. He's a graphic designer. I knew absolutely nothing about any of that shit. And honestly, he knew nothing about actually making clothes. He was just like a graphic designer. He was good on his computer. And I just slowly learned how to make clothes, screen printing and embroidery. Not even cut and sew is not even in the realm of possibility at this point. We're literally just buying blanks, going to lids, putting our logo on a hat, like whatever. Yeah. And it was hard, but we were selling out of the trunk of my car. He wasn't driving. I was selling the trunk out of my car. We didn't have a website. And a couple years after that, it had to be like 2 or 3 years after that, he was just like, yo, I don't want to do this shit no more. I'm like, yo, I understand, but please understand where I come from when I say that I'm not giving this shit up because I got nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't. I didn't go to college. I got a high school diploma. I didn't go to college. I got nothing. I'm not gonna go back to the gym. Like those days are over. Like, you know what I mean? And yo, slowly but surely, bro, I just kept on working at that shit myself. And as far as the second part to that, because I don't want to forget that, because I never get the chance to talk about this, the shit that, because I was born in '94, so I grew up in the streetwear era of like music record label brands like Fat Farm and Sean John and Rockaware and G Unit. And like, I don't take inspiration from the designers of those brands because they were just like rappers at the end of the day doing whatever they're doing. But I take inspiration from dudes like a Nicky Diamonds from Diamond Supply and a Sean Stussy, right? And the dudes from Pink Dolphin. Like, that shit's not even around no more. Like, all OG streetwear brands that I grew up through, like, the owners of those brands were like my Michael Jordan, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to look at them and just be like, really mainly Nicky Diamonds. Nowadays, it's like a Teddy from an Ame Leon or like a Ronnie from a Kith, or even on another side, like a Greg Una jewelry, like whatever. Like, I take inspiration from those dudes. But like, growing up, when I first started making clothes, it was that OG streetwear, Sean Stussy, Nicky Diamonds, like Black Scale, Obey, Shepard Fairey, like all that type of shit. You know what I mean? That's really where I started to bro, those dudes were like athletes to me, bro. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like they don't really get, and also, again, I never wanted to, and still to this day, don't ever want to be like famous, you know what I mean? Those dudes could walk into a Starbucks, get a cup of coffee, walk out, and go about their day, but they have no idea the type of influence that they got kids on me, like me, you know what I mean? And I always wanted to be like that. I always wanted to be successful in my own right, but also not like a Chris Brown of fame, because I don't want that shit. And when you're an owner of a streamer brand, you don't really get that shit, you know what I mean? So it was definitely something I was like, yo, I really like this. I could be creative. This could be my medium. I could tell my story through this way, but also like not fully be in the spotlight of the limelight, because I don't really want to be like that. Right. You know what I mean?
What about first sale? Your first sale on whatever, the first clothing thing that you designed. Yeah. And the first sale, how did that make you feel? Seeing it on somebody else's body, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, that's a crazy feeling. I wouldn't say like first sale, because a lot of the stuff was in the beginning, me and that kid riding around selling shit out of the trunk of our cars. And for the most part, bro, in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie to you, people were only buying at War because of me. Like, they just liked me as a popular kid. Like, I grew up in a bunch of different neighborhoods in Brooklyn, so I have friends all over the place. And they would just buy it because it was me. It's like, yo, John started a brand. Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to buy something. Support, yeah. Eventually, you can't sustain a brand or a business off that. You got to make dope shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say, bro, for like the first 5 years of us, we didn't really make like dope shit. People were just buying the shit because it was me. But eventually, we had like a down period, and I was like, all right, I gotta come up with some shit like this. This is gonna be like a flash in the pan, some bullshit shit that just came and went, how I've seen so many local brands do, and I don't want to be that, right? So we came up with some shit. The first thing that I ever really designed fully myself was this rose logo that I got. And I remember I put this rose logo on 3 T-shirts. I picked the colorways. I picked everything about this item. This item was designed by me. And we made like 75 pieces, 3 colors, 25, 25, 25. I just started the website, so I put the shit up on the website. Not a lot of sales from the website, but I had a lot of people hitting me up. Yo, can you save this? Yo, can you do this? Yo, you could do that. And I was doing drop-offs, so you know what I mean? And that's probably the first time that I felt like, oh, shit, I just fully created something, because now I'm really doing the shit by myself. In the beginning, he was the graphic designer. Right. Now I'm learning Photoshop myself a little bit, taking things from here and morphing this, like, you know? And that was the first time that at 5 years in that I ever looked at some shit, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And from there, I just really, like, fell in love with it. Not that I didn't love it before that, but, like, I really fell in love with the shit there. Like, I could see, like, I felt like an artist for the first time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Do you feel like, in a way, because I don't know on this idea, I kind of struggle with that. Do you feel like you have multiple callings in life? So when I ask that question, I mean, for you, you love clothing. There's something that you really enjoy. It's a passion. Now, Zach and Jake bring you on board, right? And you love that as well. And it's a passion. Your voice is getting out to people. So do you feel like, in a way, you have 2 callings in this life that you're living?
No, I feel like it's one calling, right? But I feel like the medium changes, which is what I love so much about the pod, because I love making clothes. But like, that's not the only thing that I am. You know, understand what I'm saying? Like and you can relate to this, you got tattoos. Like, I fell in love with getting tattoos because it was another way to tell my story, but to tell a story. So I feel like my calling is to be a storyteller, right? And I feel like At War was the first thing that gave me that opportunity, right? And then the pod was the second thing that gave me another opportunity to tell my story verbally instead of design-wise or aesthetically. You know what I mean? And then I feel like too, bro, like even before I got on the pod, and I just started making content. And obviously, I started making more content after the pod, and I just fell in love with like content making. But it's not just the content making; it's about the storytelling. And like I tell people this all the time, like I can't wait to write a fucking TV show, a series, like a movie, like in a way, what you're saying is 100% true, but the calling stays the same. The medium just changes.
I like that.
Right? You know, I just, at the end of the day, I just saw Stefan Diggs say this. He was like, yo, when you're, I forgot exactly what he said, but he was like, yo, when you're a creative, you don't just create one way. It just comes out of you. It just oozes out of you. And however it happens, however it happens. For the first 9 years, 10 years of my life, it was clothing. Now, hopefully, for the rest of my life, it's pod and it's TV and it's fucking movies at some point and it's writing and I love photography. I've always loved photography, landscape photography. I love just when you're creative, bro, you don't just do one thing.
Right.
That's how you could really separate like who is who. In my opinion, you know what I mean, and that's just bro. That's a great question because there's so much more to me. I used to get. In the beginning, when people come up to me and be like, yo, you're the At War guy, right? And I'd just be like, hell yeah, I'm the At War guy. Like, what's up? Now people come up to me and be like, you're the At War guy. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, nah, bro. My name is fucking John Scafidi. You know what I'm saying? Like, respectfully.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's how you know me, and I love that, but, like, my name is John.
Right.
You feel me? And I just feel like, now saying that out loud, people might look at that and be like, he's a dick, but it's just I don't want to be known for just that. I want to be known for, like, At War is an extension of me, right? Like, I'm not an extension of At War. This is completely different. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how I feel about that.
That's a beautiful thing. I totally agree with what you're saying. I love the way you put it. You put that perfectly. Does At War stem from, like the name itself? Is it something that has to do with mental health? Is it something that has to do with boxing? Where did that name At War originate from?
So it's funny. I didn't come up with the name At War. Oh, that shit was At War in New York when he had it, right? And that was cool. I thought specifically when I first got involved, I was like, yo, you got to think bigger than that. It can't just be At War in New York. It's got to either just be like At War or now what it is, At War Worldwide. But I was like, I remember when I sat down with him when we had this conversation, I'm like, yo, like, what is that shit about? What is that shit about? And he didn't really have like an answer to it. You know what I'm saying? He there was no like definition behind At War. It was more so a cool name. It just kind of made sense. The logo was dope, like whatever. It wasn't until later that I sat there and I was like, yo, we're all at war with something. And something just like clicked in my head. I was like, wow, we could really put like meaning behind what At War means and rock with this. You know what I'm saying? And so there was no meaning behind it in the beginning. I was having a conversation with somebody and I remember it just came out in the conversation. I'm like, yo, hold on. So we're all at war with something. I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's what this brand is missing right now. This brand is missing. It's got a cool name. It's got a cool logo. The designs are cool. But we want to make people feel something. And it was one of those aha moments, bro. I'll never forget it when we finally put meaning behind that shit. And then I even wound up putting meaning behind it later where you're like, yo, was it boxing? I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
But that's how funny God is, bro. Because he's like, yo, look at this shit. He goes, At War and boxing, like, I always felt like boxing was always going to be a part of my life, but I was never going to be a fighter. I just didn't know how it was going to be part of my life. And, like, we're starting At War Boxing Club next year, and, like, that's a whole different story. But it's just so funny how that shit, even the journey, bro, like, it's crazy. It really is so crazy. And it just goes back to what you just said. It was like, yo, do you feel like you have multiple callings? Nah, I feel like I have one calling just under a bunch of different branches.
Yeah.
The calling stays the same. Everything else just kind of just trickles out. And it's funny how that shit just connected the way that it did.
And what's funny about watching the journey is that's just how I looked at it. When I seen your brand, right, At War, and then I hear, your journey, your own personal journey, I'm like, it's kind of dope. Yeah. And it kind of just fell into your lap, like you said.
It's like At War did, bro.
But in a way, that's what I'm saying. Like, At War fell into your lap, the name, but it's almost like a mental thing because we're all at war with something, right? And on top of that, I also feel like, just me personally, I feel like God gives signs. And I feel like that might have been just your early sign. That name itself might have just been your early sign. Like, hey, listen.
It's crazy. Bro, I was so lost, bro. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with my life. And even in the beginning at war, I didn't think that was going to be like, all right, cool. It's just a fucking hobby, bro. That shit was a hobby for 6 years. Like, I was still doing another job. Like, I lost that restaurant job during COVID, staying home, getting unemployment, working on the brand. That shit wound up becoming my full-time career. But, like, for the first 6 years, out of those 10 years, not only did we not see a fucking dollar, but it wasn't. It was a hobby. Just something like, I could. I think I'm creative, so fuck it. Let's make a product and sell it. I ain't no businessman. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just happened that way, bro. It's crazy. It really is crazy.
So, one of my questions too, because I've been doing a series and it's called Relationship Goals, and I've touched on all different things. Yeah. But one of the things that I really want to touch on, and I really want to know, because you said like you've done a couple things, but you've done it for a long time. Do you have sometimes a problem with being too comfortable, with not really pushing yourself to the next thing? Is that something that you've grown up? Is that something, first of all, that you struggle with? And is that something that you've grown up with as maybe like a teen into your 20s and now touching your 30s?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, bro. And I'm sitting here thinking about how, like, I didn't necessarily get lucky because I don't really believe in, like, luck. I just more so believe in, like, God is going to do what he's going to do. You know what I mean? And it's funny. Yeah, definitely, because if it wasn't for COVID, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably just still be working in that restaurant, just making cash, being able to pay the bills. Like, the way that shit also worked out, and it's so funny. I keep, like, the way all the shit works out. Mm-hmm. My parents got divorced, like, a couple years before COVID, and then we're battling on, are we going to sell the condo that I grew up in or whatever the case may be. My point is that condo wound up getting sold a month before COVID hit, which means that I had to make a decision. Like, not even a decision. The decision was I was moving out. My mom had already moved out. I was living with my father. He was going somewhere else. I wasn't going with him, and I wasn't moving in with my mother. So I had to move out. And I was like, yo, now I got real people bills, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm working in the restaurant. Like, that's how I'm going to pay my bills. And I lost that job because of COVID. And the only thing that I had was at war. So my point to that is that I was pushed off the ledge and said, yo, learn how to fly on your way down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have never left that job. And I also know that a lot of people are stuck with some shit like that because they're like, yo, I don't want to leave this job because let's say I got a wife or I got kids, or even if you don't, you're just like, I got bills and overhead and I don't want to go venture into the dark without a fucking flashlight. You know what I mean? So I would have never, bro. I would have never dropped out of college if my parents had the conversation with me like, yo, you want to drop out of college and focus on boxing? I would have never left that restaurant if it wasn't for COVID and literally, like, not being able to go to work. Mm-hmm. So for me, unfortunately, I do my best work and I'm the most inspired when my back is up against the wall and I got to just figure it out, you know? And that's rough because in the beginning, you ain't going to have it figured out, but you got to figure it out. So yeah, I've definitely always struggled with that. And, bro, I've just always been lucky enough for somebody to kick me off that fucking ledge. Yeah. You know? Otherwise, I would have never jumped.
Me and you are a lot alike. I'm not gonna lie. In that sense, like I do my best work when your back is against the wall because you ain't got nowhere to go. Yeah. And what I say is, and I've also been, I wouldn't say a victim, but I'll use the word victim. I've been a victim of knowing that I got the support. Yeah. So it's like when you have the support or quote unquote safety net, you could kind of go and do a little thing. But when you really pushed out, like you're saying, when you're pushed out on that ledge, there's nowhere to go.
Nowhere, bro.
You can't go down. Like, you got to stay up or you're going to be homeless. Anything. Like, let's just be honest. I don't want to get into the details or nothing about your parents' divorce, but have you ever in your life battled any type of depression or anxiety? And if you have, did it start with that? Or was it before that or after that?
Yeah, definitely it started before that. Like, I grew up in a household that was full of anxiety and that was full of, like, agitation. And I feel like that is definitely, like, an Italian household kind of thing. But my father was also in prison before I was born. So if I was born in 94, my father was in prison from 79 to 90. And when he got home, my mother got him a job in the union. And, they went about his life and he never got in trouble again. But he took a lot of shit from prison and kind of, like, brought it into the house, even if it was very small things.
You said 12 years?
11 years.
11 years?
You know, and it's a long time, bro.
is a
Like,
very long
bro, think
time.
about this for a second. And me and my father don't have a good relationship right now, but the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I think about all the time is that, bro, my dad was in prison from the age of 19 years old to 30 years old. He missed his entire 20s.
That's tough. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what I'm saying? He missed his entire 20s, came home at 30, was going to be a professional fighter. The government wouldn't let him because he had his whatever ties, and it was like, yo, nah, you got to go get a real job. So basically, he wasn't allowed to figure out who he was. He was told who he was. You know what I mean? So he kind of like brought that into the house a little bit, and he was just very fucking strict with a lot of bullshit. Like, what time you got to be home, whatever the fuck. He was just very strict, you know what I mean? And that brought on a lot of anxiety because then eventually we got this thing, and he was like, yo, turn your location on. Yo, call me when you get here. Yo, do this and do that and whatever the fuck. Always be accessible to me because I want to make sure you're good. And like, it was always from a place of love. And my mother was like that too. But it definitely added a lot of anxiety to my shit because I was always like, nobody else's parents, not that nobody else's parents cared about them. They did, but like, they showed it in a different way. And my parents were just always on my ass. You know what I mean? I talk, me and my mother are like this now, and I talk to her about this shit all the time, and we laugh about it. But from an anxiety point, that's definitely where that shit came from. And like depression stems from anxiety, bro. You know? And I've had OCD since I'm a kid. Like I didn't know that I had it when I was a kid. But OCD also stems from both of those things. You know what I mean? So I've been an anxious, depressed kid, emotional, vulnerable, transparent kid since I'm a kid. You know, so I can't really pinpoint where like the anxiety and depression started, but I can tell you definitely why it started. And obviously the divorce didn't make that shit any easier either because then it was just like, oh shit, like you're just completely just fucking ripped the fucking house apart. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you're just more anxious, you know? So I don't know where it started, but no, I've been like this forever before that, before the divorce.
What's interesting too is like when you say the age that your pops was in jail, that's a tough age, in my opinion. It's just a tough age because I think about 19 to 30.
Crazy, bro.
All the bullshit I did.
That's
I'm
what I'm
not
saying.
even trying to make a joke of it. All the bullshit that I've learned, but it helped me by the time I was 30. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and for him, not to say that he didn't learn because you could read books, you do, but it's just having to deal with the everyday life. So when he comes home, it's like he's used to that, he's used to that, he's used to that. Yeah, and now you're kind of left with that type of strictness. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, my parents were definitely strict. Are you the first child?
I'm the only child.
The only child. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you understand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not an only child. I have a brother, but I'm the first child. Yeah. So everything they do is usually more strict with the first child.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if you remember the next year. Obviously, you remember the next tale.
Yeah.
But my mom used to be.
Of course.
I'd be walking with some girls, little, you know, I'm 12, 13.
Yeah.
Pat, I'm like,
what?
Hold on.
Yeah, bro.
Hold on 1 second. You know what I'm saying? It's like because they wanted to know where you was at. And it's true. When you look back, you're like, I understand it's that love. Because like I have a son now, and I'm like, I probably would be the same way. Like I try to learn. You try to learn, you try to pinpoint off that.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you tell me that, I could definitely feel that anxiousness, that anxiety. But so the OCD, it started when did you realize that? Was it with the clothing?
No, it's funny, bro. It's really so fucking funny because OCD has this. I've been talking about this a lot lately, and I'm glad because I feel like a lot of people probably have the shit and maybe they don't know that.
They don't know it, yeah.
Whatever. When I was a kid, bro, OCD is not only, again, I spoke about this on the Moments at El Pod. OCD is not only like the Howie Mandel effect where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm a germaphobe. That's like one of the things. He's obsessive compulsive about that. Bro, I was so obsessive compulsive about wanting to control everything. And the way that I felt like I could control everything as a kid, because I grew up in an Italian Roman Catholic household. I went to fucking Catholic school from kindergarten through fucking 12th grade. So it was prayer. It just always, everyone was just always like, yo, if you ever need anything, you need to talk to somebody, you can always pray. So when you have OCD, you get like intrusive thoughts, right? About some shit that like doesn't exist right now. You just created this shit in your head, whatever the case may be. It could even be as extreme as driving and just thinking about a car crash. It could be anything, you know what I mean? So when I was a kid and I used to get those thoughts, I used to think that since I thought it, there's a possibility that it could happen. So the way that I tried to stop that shit from happening was praying. So I used to all the fucking time do the sign of the cross or pray. But I used to wanna. It doesn't make any sense to anybody who doesn't have OCD, but like, if I could do the sign of the cross, right, and I touched my hat by accident, I felt like I didn't do the sign of the cross, so I felt like I had to do it again. You know what I mean? And that's one of my tics. Obsessive, right? Prayer, excessive. I had to stop praying as a teenager because I'd say the fucking Hail Mary and feel like I didn't say it right, or felt like I was just going through the motions, so it wasn't gonna work, right? And that shit doesn't make any sense, right? But when you have that type of mentality, you start to fucking think that you could control shit with that, and you can't, you know? And I'll never forget, bro. And I know this because I was under 10 years old, and I remember I kept on repeating the Hail Mary over and over again before bed for whatever reason. I used to have this weird thing. I used to be afraid somebody was going to break into the crib. For whatever reason, I have no idea why. And I knew we would have been all right. Like, my pops is a gangster. Like, we would have been fine, you know what I mean? And I was also in an apartment building. Like, nobody was breaking into the crib. But whenever I would have those intrusive thoughts, I would have to pray. And I'll never forget, my father came into my room one night and was like, yo, like, what up? I must have been 8 years old. And he was like, yo, like, I heard you praying over and over again. You good? And I remember thinking, I'm like, yo, I was just doing the rosary. He was like, all right, because the rosary, you repeat the prayer. And later down the line, my parents realized that, like, I had something, and they didn't know what it was. And, like, obviously I didn't know what it was. Now looking back on it, that was my first tell that I had OCD. Yeah. And, yeah, bro, from there, and nah, it wasn't with the clothing. It started to turn into that later because I used to fucking, like, map my outfits out in my head, like, the day before, like a dress down day or some shit like that. And I used to always map the outfits out, what I was going to be the most comfortable in. Not what I was going to be the most fly in, but if I was fly, I was comfortable. So kind of just like, you know what I'm saying? And that's really when I started to realize, like, yo, yeah, I got like something.
Are you superstitious?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because
Don't split the pole around me when we're walking in the street and we're walking and the motherfucker's supposed to grab that motherfucker. Yo, what are you doing, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? Like, yo, come over here. I'm with my girl. I'm walking. I'm like, bro, what's going on here, bro? Stop with the shit. You know, I don't care if it's a tree. I don't give a fuck. Don't split the fucking pole.
I'm so superstitious, right? Yeah. It's bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's bad. I don't know if that counts for being OC. I don't know.
There's something
but
in it. Yeah.
I'm so superstitious that what was it? 2021. I'm a big Buccaneer fan. I've been since you're a Buccaneer fan too? Oh, that's why you my dog, see?
Yo, bro, the first fucking Super Bowl I ever watched was 2003. Yeah. I was 9 years old. They beat the Raiders. I said, that's my team. Yeah. And nobody understood it. I'd never been to Tampa before in my life. Well, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm a Buccaneer fan.
Yeah, wow,
I was
that's
in Tampa
fire.
Bay for that Super Bowl. I didn't go to the Super Bowl.
2021?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, 2021.
Yeah, we went, me and my boys, because my boy is a Patriot fan, so he was a Brady fan.
That's
so we
fire,
watched every game together. Yeah, that was one of the best years ever, bro.
Dope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been a Buck fan since before. So, my favorite player was Keyshawn.
Yeah.
And he got traded to Tampa. I was a kid. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I love red. I love the logo. My dad was like, really? Like, he told me straight up, he's like, if you like a team, you never change your team. So I'm big on that. He's like, you never change. I was like, all right, then I'm a Bucks fan. Fuck it. They wound up winning the championship. But long story short, what I was trying to say is my aunt's birthday fell on that Super Bowl in 2021. She had this big party upstairs. I lived downstairs, like in an apartment. She had this big party. I'm like, the Bucks haven't lost since I've been watching on this TV. I'm not coming upstairs. She literally was like when I tell you mad at me, mad at me. And then people from the party were coming downstairs to support me.
I'm like that.
And she's like, it's my birthday. Like, I'm like, I'm not coming up.
This is important.
Patrick Mahomes, I don't care that we up 31-9. No, I'm not coming upstairs till I see 0-0-0.
Yeah, bro.
So I could understand that to a certain extent. Like, I will not leave my crib. I don't care. If you're having a party, I'm not coming. I'll see y'all later until the game's over.
Yeah, I love
Same thing with the Yankees.
Yeah.
I was like, when they were winning, I was like, I'm not leaving. But it becomes something like that where you're so superstitious.
It's crazy. That's crazy because, that's one of the things, too. I definitely have something like that. I'm not, like, super obsessive about that, but it's definitely something in the back of my head where I'm like, yeah, for sure. If I wore a piece of clothing and something good happened that day or some shit, like I'll correlate shit that should not be correlated.
Right.
That don't have nothing to do with nothing. And we talk about this shit all the time. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Butterfly Effect.
Yes, I have seen that. Yep.
That shit changed my life, bro.
Yep.
Like, for somebody that has OCD, that movie should have a fucking, like a warning before it. Like, yo, if you have some sort of mental illness, don't watch this shit. Yeah. Because it had me thinking that, like, everything fucking matters, bro. like everything. Walking into this building a minute later than I did would change some shit somewhere else in my life, you know?
Crazy.
And so, yeah, I'm definitely very superstitious. I definitely overthink a lot of things that shouldn't. I feel like it's partly a superpower, but it's also partly something that deters me in certain aspects of my life.
So let's talk about two aspects of your life: friendship and relationship is with females.
Yo.
Have those things triggered any negative things within your own friendship group? And also, have you dated anybody where OCD or depression or anxiety deterred where you could have went with so and so?
Yeah, with friends, nah. I have 5 best friends that I've been friends with since fucking freshman year of high school, and I feel like not a lot of people could say that. So I feel like that's really really dope. Like I have my core. Everybody's got that core, and then you got like the outskirts or whatever. I have my core 4 or 5 best friends that like I've been friends with. They know how I am. I remember, bro, like. Shout out to my boy Serge, bro. I remember one time we were walking in the park as kids, and one of my tics is doing the sign of the cross with my eyes because I don't want nobody to know. Like that's why it's funny we brought about sunglasses. Like I would wear sunglasses a lot of time if I'm having a bad day because I would do the sign of the cross with my eyes, and I wouldn't want nobody like to see me doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I remember one time he was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I'm just like, I forgot what I said. I was like, maybe my contacts are all fucked up, and I think that he knew that something was up, but like he just didn't give a fuck. He was just like, all right, he's just wanting things you a little weird, like it's all good, you know what I mean? And yeah, so nah, bro, yeah. No, they'll like make fun of me and shit, but it's in like it's in jest. It's not like actually making fun of me, you know? That's never
Good friend.
Yeah, it's never deterred anything. They'll make light of it to like make me feel better about it. Now, especially that I'm super open about it, because it's also not something I was ever open about. It's also not something that I knew that I had. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that I had this shit until like I had to be in my 20s, bro.
Yeah.
Like mid 20s, you know? And then as far as relationship goes, yeah, because my it's funny, bro. I hated the fact that my parents, specifically my mother, was so like on top of me with certain shit about calling, where you at? I texted you 5 minutes ago, why don't you answer? Like, shit like that. It's very anxiety ridden. And I try not to be like that with anybody really in my life, but you could go specifically to romantic relationships. But the funny part is that I attract that for some reason. So like the women that I've been with for the most part are like that, and it kind of puts like a block between us because I'm like, damn, I grew up with that. Excuse me, I grew up with that. I don't want that in my life, but I'm also attracting it, and I love you, right? And I hate the fact that you're like that, but I also understand why you're like that, and it just becomes so it gives me anxiety to an extent where I'm trying to learn about it, and I also try to not teach, but like I also try to have a conversation with whoever that might be. Like this is why maybe I lash out when I feel like you're maybe like too on top of me. You know what I'm saying? And then the depression part, I've just always been. My undertone has always been like emotional and like kind of sad per se, you know? And it's not that I'm just like sad about life. It's just, I can't really explain it, but I've definitely been with women that are more like uppity people that could maybe think that like being down, not all the time, but like just being down is like a drain. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm really not trying to do that. I'm just like, it's just I'm in my head or I'm emotional or whatever the case may be. So long story short, yeah, I've definitely on the romantic side been with women that can't really understand like that I just feel so much.
Have you ever gone that direction though? Because that's interesting to me. Because your mom was like that, I could see how it could be a trigger.
Yeah.
Right? Like as soon as somebody does this, like, yeah, turn off.
Yeah, for sure.
Turned off.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like, in any way, like you was doing that to somebody else? Like,
Yeah.
have you ever felt like, man, not overly texting, but I'm overly protective, like kind of like my pops.
Yeah.
Or overly checking in, like, where are you at? Where you at? Where you at? Like, have you ever felt like I'm a reflection of something that I didn't want to be, but I don't know how to get out of it?
Yeah, and it's something that I've battled with for a long time, because I could sit here and say I hate when the woman is like that, but I've also been with women where I'm like that. And my answer to it is that I'm not trying to be controlling. I'm not trying to be on top of you. It's not that I don't trust you. My answer to it is what my parents would always say: yo, I just care. I want to make sure you're good. You know? And I would say to them, yeah, but you could show it in a different way, right? And when I'm having that conversation, I'm like, I understand it from my side, and not really from their side. But then when I'm doing it, and I say that, and then they say to me, yeah, but you could show it in a different way, I don't get it. You know? So yeah, yeah, bro. God, I mirror shit that like I get mad at. It doesn't make any fucking sense sometimes. Yeah. And I guess it's the other person. If I'm A, it's just whatever B is giving me. I've been with anxious women. I've been with avoidant women. And I'll take the anxious woman over the avoidant woman every day of the fucking week. Because avoidance don't communicate. Avoidance, like, don't get it twisted. Avoidance feel the same thing that, like, I'll speak for myself. I'm an anxious, codependent person, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I was built that way because of my parents, right? So naturally, I attract anxious, fucking codependent women. Mm-hmm. But I've been with avoidant women, and it sucks, bro. It sucks, bro. And I try my best not to be that type of person because avoidant women are not communicative. They feel the same thing that I feel, that we feel as anxious codependents, but they don't know how to, like, verbalize it or communicate it until, like, much later. And if you're going to wait 6 to 8 weeks to talk to me about some shit that we're going to talk about right now, I'm not going to be there anymore, bro, because I'm an anxious person. I don't know what the fuck is going on in those 6 to 8 weeks. I'm overthinking everything, you know what I mean? So, yeah, bro, it's rough, but I would 100% take the fucking anxious woman that just really cares and, like, doesn't really know how to show it in, like, a calm way than the woman that's avoidant that cares but just, like, has no idea how to show it at all. You know what I mean?
Have you been heartbroken?
Yeah. Yeah.
Multiple times or one time?
Nah, multiple times for sure. But the first one was definitely the one that, like, I always talk about her. I hate fucking talking about her because
you're not healed.
No, like, in certain aspects of it, I'm not because it's fucking literally 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So in certain aspects of it, I'm not. But I am as an umbrella statement because, like, I can honestly say that if, like, she's married now, you know what I mean? Like, if she would walk in here right now, I might be like, oh, shit, but it would not affect me at all. Right. You know what I'm saying? But there are also other things that, and we just spoke about this on a pod that we just did. There are also other things that I'm not healed about because that woman, right, left me when that woman, and I also understand it to an extent, that woman met me when I was a fighter, right? I was 19 years old. And by the time that we broke up, when I was 22 years old, I wasn't a fighter no more. I wasn't the same person no more. I didn't really look the same. I put on a little bit of weight, and I was a completely different person. I was a fucking aspiring streetwear designer that was delivering pizza. You feel me? So she came into this like, all right, if you're not going to be a fighter, your father's a construction worker, he could put you into that shit like it's all good. Like, that's where she thought I was going to go. And when my life finally got to the point where it was like, yo, you need to, like, do something for real, because all my 22-year-old friends that just graduated college, mind you, that I didn't go to, were getting real jobs. And she was looking at it like, yo, what are we doing here? Like, if you following your dreams, cool, whatever. You work in a fucking pizzeria. Your father could go get you a job where you could fucking literally be making the same amount of money that he is. That was that type of situation. And I was just like, I don't want to do that shit. And I'm sure there was, like, other little things involved, but she was just like, yo, I'm out. And I definitely still have, like, an abandonment wound that I carry into today, because if I even feel the slightest bit of you pulling back and abandoning me, I get so anxious, I spaz the fuck out. You know, and so in that sense, I'm definitely not healed, and I'm, like, working on it. And it took a second time for that shit to happen for me to, like, sit there and think to myself, like, all right, John, it's all right that you're an anxious person. It's all right that you overthink about all the shit that you overthink. But, like, you got to really, really dive into yourself and just, like, dial that shit back. Yeah. Not everybody needs to know everything. That's where the oversharing comes into play in my life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't think I'm ever going to stop being that anxious person, but there's definitely a way to, like, blur that line where it's like, all right, bro, just, like, fucking zen out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't control everything. That's the OCD in the back. You can't control everything. Yep. Control some shit, but you can't control everything.
Yeah. And I love that you put it that way, because it leads me to the next question. With all of your blessings and, you know, all of, I wouldn't even say problems, troubles that you have dealt with and still deal with to this day, because nobody's ever fully good.
For sure.
What's your dream scenario when you look at yourself? Obviously now you see, like you say, you seen your gift and you see the umbrella effect around it. What's your dream scenario moving forward where just in life, like the life or the person that you want to be? What's like when, because listen, I know we all see it at night when we go to sleep and when we think really hard. What is that dream scenario for you?
I mean, I definitely want to be married. I definitely want to have kids. I definitely want to, own a home, and I definitely want to have the freedom to like do what I want for a living and to make money doing what I want, and the freedom to not have to worry about where the next meal is coming from or where the fucking, how the bills are getting paid and like all that shit. Like I want all that shit, but like I also want my cake and eat it too, in the sense that like I want all that shit, but I want all that shit doing what I want to do. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm never gonna sacrifice the fact that I want all that shit by doing it how I want to do it with who I want to do it with. You know what I'm saying? So like, I hope to wake up one day, 45 years old, 2 kids, wife, houses on both coasts, fucking businesses on both coasts, and that all sounds very financial in a way, and like I don't know the word like cookie cutter, but that is more so just like how I view freedom. Yeah. I want to be able to wake up, not answer to nobody except for my wife and my kids, no boss. I want to be able to wake up like, yo, you guys want to go to fucking, I don't know, you want to get on a plane and go somewhere right now? Like, we have the freedom to be able to do that, both time and both money. I want to be happy. I want to be at peace. Like, I want to have a life that doesn't make me overthink. I think I'm always going to overthink. I think I'm always going to be anxious, but I want to have a life and be with somebody and be around people that, like, calm that fucking unhealed part of me. Because it's never, like you said, it's never going to be fully healed. It's like getting a stitch. You're always going to have the scar. It's always going to be there. You're always going to be able to look at it. But I want to just be able to build a life that just gives me, like, a little bit of peace. You know what I'm saying? And I know that that's different for everybody. And for me, it starts at the house. It starts in the household, because I'm not going to say I grew up in a broken home. I had a really good 18 years with my parents, but like once that shit broke down, it made me look back and realize like, nah, the 18 years was not peaceful at all. Like there were a lot of shit going on during that time. You know what I mean? And like I just don't want to live in a house, build a family that's got like these cracks in the foundation. I want to do it slow, and I want to do it the right way. I want to do it how I want to do it, with who I want to do it with, and I'm not taking any exceptions on that shit, because this is your life and you only get one. You know what I mean? So that's really like where I'm at. I just want to be peaceful and successful and just happy, and it's not easy, but I could see it. Just getting to that shit is hard. You might get a flat tire on the way. Your fucking car might break down. You're gonna need a jump. You gotta push the car to the gas station. You're gonna want to give up. Maybe people are gonna get out of the car and be like, "Fuck this, I'm calling a cab." But like, I ain't never gonna get out of that car, ever, no matter what.
And that's that thought process of it. Life is never going to be the full way you want it. It's just you have the ups and downs, whether you like it or not. It's really, it may not be technically with you. It could be with your wife, your children, your family, but there's always that roller coaster. Oh, yeah. And it's really about really navigating and seeing how you could, you know what I'm saying, get through it with a peaceful state. Because a lot of people, they go through it with highs and lows, and they don't know how to grab that. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a part of the journey. Like, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all pod. It's a part of the journey.
100%.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's dope to see people that I have on here, just the maturation of when they talk, you can see that pain. Yeah. And like when you're talking, I can see you reliving some of it. Yeah. And I think it's dope that you can still sit here today through all of the pain, the bullshit, the divorce. Like that's gotta be heavy for anybody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like me and I have a son, and me and his mom are not together. And I feel that divide, and it kills me. But it's one of those things I can't go back. But I want to for him, but I can't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I understand to a certain extent, but yeah, I feel what you putting out, and I appreciate you for being vulnerable. Now I want to have some fun here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's give some off the topic questions. So, if you had to pick a GOAT, you're a basketball fan, right? Yeah. If you had to pick a GOAT, and it may not be these 3 names, but I'm gonna give you these 3 names: Jordan, LeBron, or Kobe. Who is, for you, your NBA GOAT?
I mean, I grew up a Kobe fan. I would say, like, out of the 3 of those, my fucking soul wants to say Kobe Bryant. I know that it's Jordan because Kobe is a byproduct of Michael Jordan. But I'll even go even deeper and I'll put it in order, bro. Because to me it's Jordan, Kobe, and Bron, and it's not to take away anything from Bron, but what Bron don't have is this, right? And like wasn't able to really obviously grow up through Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. By the time I was old enough to be paying attention to basketball,
no, the Wizards.
We had Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
I had Kobe Bryant, and Kobe's fucking mentality. He's a fucking psychopath. And I feel like I'm a fucking psychopath. So I used to look at that motherfucker like, holy shit, this motherfucker is just so dialed in. Like, at practice 4 hours before, shooting around when nobody's looking. Like, he was just always just so competitive. And I know that he got that from Jordan. But, like, again, I didn't grow up through Jordan. You know what I mean? And I feel like Kobe was even more. You know, so like I want to say Kobe. That's my favorite player of all time. I was a big Kobe guy, a big Allen Iverson guy because he changed the aesthetic of basketball players. Like he was the first one that I ever saw with tattoos and shit like that. You know what I mean? So I loved Allen Iverson so much. Shaq. I was a big Ben Wallace fan because I was terrible at offense when I was a kid, and he just grabbed boards and blocked shots, and I was just like, that's my boy. So yeah, I would go Kobe, but like I know Jordan's the GOAT. You know what I mean?
That's what I said. Me and you a lot alike, man. Because that's how I feel, too. I'm a diehard. Like, I got Kobe tatted on my arm.
Yeah. That was the worst day of my life, though.
Yeah, for real.
I forgot that day for as long as I lived, bro.
That was my guy, though. Like, growing up, like you said, then I had Jordan on the Wizards.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm just starting to pay attention to him. I remember my first basketball card was actually Kobe Bryant. And that's where I was kind of like, I fell in love. And I paid attention. And that's Afro Kobe, man. Like that's that's back 8. In the day. That's number 8.
That's number 8 right
and,
there. And
man, I used to watch his games every fucking day. Like I used to get the pack. My dad used to buy me the NBA package. I used to watch every game at night, 10:30 till 1:00 in the morning.
It was also easy because they three-peated.
Yeah. No, facts. So it's like winning.
Bro, I tell people I'm a Yankee fan, a Duke fan, and a Laker fan, and they're like, bro, like fuck you just so I'm a Duke fan. He's like, yo, you're just so like cookie cutter, and I'm like, yo, dude, but I've been rooting for these people since I'm a fucking kid. Like, the Yankees were nasty, and I'm from New York, so, like, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Duke, it was only because my uncle, instead of calling us, like, bro or dude, he would call us Duke. He's like, yo, Duke, what are you doing? And, like, I was a kid, so I thought he was only calling me Duke. Mm-hmm. So I was like, fuck it. And then I saw there was a college that was nice, so I just started running with Duke, and they just wound up being good. And then the Lakers, they were just good, bro. But we had, it was easy to be a Kobe Bryant fan.
Yeah,
bro.
me and you have a lot, man. Yeah. So my first, and people may not believe this, but this is on everything. My first baseball card was Derek Jeter.
Wow.
My favorite player. Kobe was my first basketball card. It was my 2 first cards. And I'm a card collector. Like I have a whole bunch of different shit.
Yeah.
Those were my 2, and then those were the teams I liked. So I'm a Yankee. My dad was a Yankee fan, so I loved. And then he didn't really watch basketball at first. I brought him to basketball, but I loved Kobe. And then like Duke, one of my favorite Duke players is J.J. Redick, which is now the Lakers coach. But J.J. Redick was one of my favorite Duke players. And then I'm a big Reggie Bush fan, so USC has been my team for forever. But yeah, when they're winning, it's like it's such a that's why you're a rider, you're this, you're that.
That's why it was so hard.
But I've been with them when they suck.
Yeah, bro. That's why it was so hard being a Buck fan for so long.
Yes,
because it's like the first football game that I ever really watched and paid attention to. They won the Super Bowl and then were literally the worst NFL team for fucking the next 15 years. And then Tom Brady came about, and I would tell people like, yo, this team got something, bro. Like. They might have Jameis Winston throwing fucking 40 touchdowns and 40 picks, but let me tell you something. The guts to this team,
they're quarterback away.
And they were a quarterback away. And they got a nice defense, and they always had a nice defense, but whatever. Yeah, it was hard to be a Buck fan growing up, bro.
That's what I thought about the Jets recently. Yeah. I was telling my boy, because he's a diehard Jet fan, and I'm like, I think they're Aaron Rodgers away. And this is before he got hurt. I was like, I think they're Aaron Rodgers away. And then when he went there, I was like, bro, I think I spoken as just I think. And then he got hurt first game. I'm like, crazy, buddy, I'm sorry. So
and now that shit is just in shambles.
Yeah,
bro.
I was like, I'm sorry. It's just, I guess it's a Jets curse.
It's a Jets curse.
I looked at their roster like Tampa Bay's, where it's like you have established vets, you have some skill players that they don't see because the quarterback position is horrible.
It just goes to show Brady is just a GOAT, bro.
Yeah, that's a fact. Come on, Tampa, you win.
Come on, man. Like, it's just impossible to not. I can't.
Do you love music too?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a question. Everybody, you probably like, what the fuck you asked me this question?
Yeah.
But better artists, but I'll just say in general, Chris Brown or Usher. And I've asked a lot of people this. I might even ask Zach this. I don't know if I asked Zach this, but
I'll probably go Chris Brown.
That's a good guy. He's perfect for this show.
Like, but I like, you know what's crazy? I smoke a lot of weed, and me and my boys, what we used to do is we used to pull up in my driveway and hotbox my whip and just talk about life. And one of the conversations always used to be, not even that, it was even worse than that. It was Chris Brown or MJ because of the dancing and shit like that. And I'm just like, you can't really like put anybody above Michael Jackson. The guy's the fucking greatest ever. But, like, just the fact that even putting Chris Brown in that conversation, like, he's number 2 and there ain't nobody else, you know what I mean? I love Usher. But, again, it's also, like, kind of like the Jordan and Kobe thing. Like, I didn't really get a chance to really grow up through Usher, right? But, like, Chris Brown dropped Run It when he was 16 years old. I don't remember what year that was, but I remember it. Yeah. But I don't remember when fucking Usher was dropping songs in like 99 or you know what I mean? So like I know he's the fucking man, but like I'm gonna just biasly pick Chris Brown just because we saw him like rise up, you know what I mean? And obviously the talent is just second to none, bro.
Yeah, I'm a big Usher guy. I actually grew up with him because my aunt would always play it. My aunt is only like 6 years older than me, so she grew up in that type of lens. So she would be a little bit ahead of me. Yeah. So she would always play Usher, play 112, play all these old school vibes, and I really fuck with it. But Chris Brown to me, the way he moved, his swagger, the person that he was, like, nah, I really fuck. And then the music that he makes, it's like it gets you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? You played around women, definitely get you in trouble.
100%. And I also like. I love Chris Brown, bro, because he self-inflicted, you know, went through all that shit with like him and Rihanna and really like owned up to that shit way later. I remember watching this documentary and really like owning up to that shit. And I know like a lot of people like in just pop culture and media in general like haven't forgiven him, but like I look at him as this guy that's just like, wow, bro, you were on the top of the world. You were given so much shit. Some crazy shit happened. You were 100% in the wrong. Eventually wound up owning up to it, and now it's just like on top of the world still. And I could just only that perseverance to be able to go through the mud like that, being like that talented, it's amazing.
93,000 fans the other day in South Africa.
Yeah, that's nuts, bro. That's
insane,
so fucking insane.
It's a stadium, but they won't let them do the Super Bowl. It's all politics.
It's all politics.
Bullshit.
Bro. It's crazy.
John, before you get out of here, let people know where, for like social media wise, where they can follow you. Also, let them know about your brand, where they can find at War, like if it has a website. Stuff
hell yeah. I appreciate that. Instagram, it's John Scafidi Jr. TikTok, it's also John Scafidi Jr. Instagram is at War Worldwide, and also tongue twister. The website's at warworldwide.com. And yeah, those are the only ones really right now off the top of my head. Yeah, that's it. TikTok and Instagram.
You doing like Christmas? Is it Christmas specials or anything?
Yeah, I did a for the first time, bro. The warehouse that I have, it's in Coney Island. It's where I like store all the product and shit. I got it 4 years ago, and you could only imagine over 4 years like how much product we've had in there and how much is left and like the leftovers and shit. And it's just something that I've been dreading for so long, but I had to do it this year. I'm like, yo, I'm doing a warehouse sale. I got to go through this entire fucking warehouse, do inventory, see what's in there. And it was super nostalgic for me. I've seen so many items over the course of the last 4 years. So whatever my point is, yeah, we just did our first ever 50% off warehouse sale. That shit was for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It was the first time I ever did some shit like that. Yeah, it was dope. Yeah, holidays felt really cool.
Dope. I was actually looking today. I was looking at your Instagram page, and I was like, these designs are dope.
Nah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I gotta get you some shit. I'll get you some shit you gotta wear on here. Yeah, 100%. I got you for sure. Yeah.
I love doing that. That's my biggest thing. Like, my homie that he does the comp stuff. I always love when he comp. Like, any way I could support.
Yeah, hell yeah, bro. I appreciate that. No, I got you.
Just in general, bro, I like to, especially like first time people. Like, I'm sure with Zach, I did it, but like, I just want to give you your flowers, bro, because it takes a lot for a human being just to talk about some real internal shit. Like, a lot of people have podcasts, right? You see podcasts, you see clips, and you see people talking and ha, and what's going to bite and what's going to do this. But to sit here and actually be vulnerable, and people are going to judge you regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be people that's like, yeah, that's that guy. And why he acting like a bitch? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, all the time.
But the fact that you're able to come on here and do this, and you're great at speaking, and this is something that you just jumped into, bro, you're only 30 and the sky's the limit.
I appreciate that.
So I appreciate it. Just you even, being grateful to come on here. Yeah. Take your time out. Come where you come from. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to tell you thank you, bro.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I love having the platform. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for making the connect. Like, yeah, I love doing this shit. We had a great conversation. It's the first time we ever fucking spoke. Feel like we know each other.
Won't be the last time, I promise.
Yeah, no, 100%. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, bro. That's another episode of Coach Shot Podcast. We out of here.